So let's talk about genre. It is one of the components of the rhetorical aspect of writing. It is also one of those things, much like a thesis statement or visual design, that it hits multiple aspects of writing. Sometimes I call genre the unicorn of writing because it just hits every single one of them. It's got a little bit of edge. You can define it by each one of them in a different way. But overall, the basic definition of genre is any type or form of communication with socially agreed upon norms or conventions. Again, that was any type or form of communication with socially agreed upon norms or conventions. Now you say it 2 times fast. It'll help you remember. I'll give you 2 seconds. I hope you did. I felt like Dora the Explorer just then. If you don't know, you don't know. It should be noted that that genre goes way beyond what people usually think when they think of genre. People's first impression of genre is to think of basically that list of aesthetic genres, fictional or literary genres that you get in Netflix or Hulu. You know, comedy, horror, romantic, romance, and all variations of that. And then subgenres like slasher versus thriller versus whatever. Often that is the first place people go with genre, but it's a lot bigger than that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But suffice to say, genre is any type of communication that has social boundaries, social expectations when you go to communicate. That there are norms or conventions or structures or something that guides how you write a certain way. That it's not just something you write free and nobody cares. Genres have parameters around them that have been set often by a particular culture or group who favors that genre. So any type of form of communication with socially agreed upon norms or conventions. Different genres have different preferred purposes or primary values for communicating. If you remember the video about purpose, we talked about how different genres can have different presets based on purpose. So for instance, a children's book, we said that genre has the preset on the aesthetic cranked up because it's about entertaining, but it may also be may have some the best children's books often also teach somehow, and deal with and has the visual design up and all that. So suffice to say, genres have different presets connected to purpose. So sometimes you have to think about what your purpose is before what genre you are writing into. Unless the genre is forced upon you, like happens in college classes sometimes, as a writer, you want to find the best outlet for the thing you're trying to do. So what is your purpose, and what are you responding to, and what is the best genre for accomplishing that task? And so you have to consider that. And alternatively, if a genre is being forced on you, you have to figure out how your purpose is supposed to look when communicated through the lens of that genre. What are the audience's expectations if you're being told you have to do it this way, or within these certain parameters of a particular genre. So different genres have different preferred purposes or primary values for communicating. As my slide says, Facebook posts tend to be more personal. Sometimes they are personal and persuasive. Tweets tend to be more informational or sassy. There's usually an edge or a bite to them, since especially before they were given a little longer character length, you kind of had to get things into much tighter comments, right? 140 characters, I think, and then now it's 260 or 280. And then academic essays often emphasize logic-based or fact-based persuasion rather than personal experience. There are some exceptions to that, things like ethnography, or when you're doing signposting in large works, or if you're talking about how something was done. Sometimes, depending on the field, humanities tend to favor personal experience essays, or case, and social sciences tend to favor case studies. But there's still, even within that style, there's still the underlying base of logic-based, fact-based persuasion, not just writing designed to appeal to pathos or emotion. So we want to think about the genre we're trying to write into, and how that either is governed by our purpose or changes how we express how we accomplish our writer purpose. And so if you can, you should choose a genre of writing that adjusts, that you can, that if not you have to adjust to the genre carefully. Be sure to leverage the genre effectively for the target audience. If you are doing things that don't match the expected structure, if you're doing things that don't match the expected way of speaking, formal versus informal, or any number of things, then that may put off your audience and have them not be as willing to listen to you. So as I said, genre can use any of the 8 aspects of writing. So as you think about a genre, you want to consider, okay, when I'm thinking, who are the audiences that use this genre? Who are the what purposes are commonly used here? What level of formality? So some of those might be rhetorical considerations, but it may also be, how do I produce this genre? Is it digital? Is it physical? What technologies do I use? What are the techniques that my reader's going to expect from me to help them download information? A textbook works a certain way. It works better when there are images and headings and subheadings. So if you're supposed to be writing that kind of thing, it's different than if you are supposed to be just doing a personal narrative. Anything works better with pictures, but personal narratives are already telling a story. So sometimes people will say you don't need pictures, and some people will say you need even more pictures because you're telling a story, so why not? You can consider scientific aspect of writing. How in this genre, for this context, for this audience, do I communicate knowledge? What is it that they're looking for? So if it's an academic essay, the scientific and sociocultural may blend as you go to use in-text citations. You deliver knowledge through the scientific, but it's supposed to be packaged a certain way, and so that's a sociocultural norm if you're using MLA or APA or IEEE or something like that. So you want to think about all the different ways the genres you write or the genres you consume deal with the 8 aspects of writing. It's meant to be a comprehensive model that you can use for a variety of writing context, rhetorical contexts. So, what language is used, what level of formality, how much do you get to put in your own perspective, how much do they care about flowery language versus facts? Are there particular styles like passive voice or active voice? Active voice is privileged in the humanities. Passive voice is privileged or made more important in the sciences, especially lab reports and the method section. They want it in passive voice. It's not a is it right or wrong, as we talked about in the grammar norms video. It's a, what is the expectation of the audience, and do I want to break that expectation to get my point made, or is it more important to focus on adhering to the expectations so my message makes sense in the context I'm writing in? So all of these things are part of how you can analyze genre, what's happening, what's expected, how does the technology work to communicate, and we'll talk more about that with limitations and constraints. But genre, one place that is most commonly connected to genre is when we're talking about form or structure or organization. It's the order that we put things in. So a lot of times, for instance, in a standard academic persuasive essay in the humanities, you start with an introduction, you have a body, you have a conclusion, and then and they each have their own role and place. Your thesis goes in a certain spot, and I've got a whole series of videos on what the standard essay is and why and all that fun stuff. But this nowadays in current academic culture, the thesis usually goes at the bottom of the intro paragraph. That's part of the structure of the genre. If you put it somewhere else, in the U.S. academic culture, it may be hard. It may make it harder for your reader to follow your argument. Interesting thing is, in some other cultures, in some other genres, different values are there. So I've been told that and read that in Korean writing or Japanese writing in certain genres, that you actually don't put your thesis at the beginning, you put it closer to the end. In Western culture, we have the traditional persuasive essay that's built off of kind of an Aristotelian rhetoric, and then which is what our intra-body conclusion comes from. And then we've got the Rogerian model, which it has a completely different structure, and I should have videos up eventually for that. But the Rogerian structure says use the first half of your essay to understand and explain the benefits of other people's arguments before you get to yours, before you drop in your thesis. That doesn't mean there's not a guiding statement, but the thesis goes in a different place. The strong argument happens later because the point is to develop rapport, build a shared experience or consideration, or develop ethos before logos, develop credibility before logic, or alongside logic instead of just hammering it home, hammering the point home. So all of those are considerations of genre. It is one component of the rhetorical aspect, but again, all 8 aspects of writing play into it because each genre may use a different technology or may change as the technology changes. The technology mediates the writing experience. Different beliefs about beauty in a particular culture may change what type of language in that genre when you go to write it, where you can use or what would be expected, that kind of thing. So be aware that genre is any type or form of communication with socially agreed upon norms or conventions. It's complex. It does hit all 8 aspects of writing and can be adapted or adjusted at those levels. Be aware what genre you're supposed to be writing in. Don't make assumptions. Check if you're not sure. There's a difference between writing an academic essay in the humanities and writing an academic essay in the social sciences and writing an academic essay in the physical sciences. The essay may be called a lab report in one, a case study in another, and a persuasive essay in the other. Sometimes they have overlapping structures, and you can use a lot of the same strategies. Sometimes you need to make very specific shifts based on that new culture and that new genre. So keep that in mind. Have fun. Hopefully this was helpful. Genre.